Welcome everybody to the ZeroPM workshop. We're really happy that everybody could join us. This is my first in-person event for about 4 years. So I'm of course a bit sceptical to get COVID. I really hope I don't get poorly. But yeah, we're really happy that you're all here to join us. And for many of you, you know I'm Sarah Hale, and this is my colleague Hans-Peter Raab, and we're leading ZeroPM, which you'll hear about in just a second. So let's see if it works. There's no work. Oh yeah, okay, so stop now. Okay, we're good. So we've welcomed, you know who we are, and this is the workshop. So I'm going to start by just telling or just showing a few things that I've seen in the media recently, in different languages. But they all tell us the same thing. They're all talking about these substances that are of concern to us at the moment, the persistent and mobile substances. And they're all saying that these substances are here forever. So you find them in agricultural soil, and this causes problems for farmers who want to grow things on the soil. You find them in drinking water, and this is highly problematic. And now more and more we're seeing lots of lawsuits related to these substances. So it's for sure that they're not very good. Now, I wanted to also just show you an interesting side. Many of you probably think that you're experts in this area. I do. That's why I lead ZeroPM. So that's really good. But what we're doing at the moment in ZeroPM is we're trying to capture different stakeholders' views of risk. And I would like to ask you, and you don't need to answer now, but could you spot the products with the PFAS as experts? So this is one thing that we're trying to probe at the moment. You can think about it during the workshop. But why do we have this problem? So I think everybody knows the substances themselves are the problematic thing, but they're produced, they're used, and then they get into the environment, and then they stay. They're persistent, so they don't break down. They're mobile, so they move very far with water, and they get to the water treatment plants, and then the problem that we have is that we can't remove them. So ultimately, they end up in us, and that's where the problem lies. Now, water is very important. We must have clean drinking water. There's 507 million people connected to a drinking water network across Europe, and we consume 33.2 billion metres cubed of drinking water per year. So this is huge amounts. But what we do know is that the water's not clean, and this is a problem. In Europe, we get our drinking water from groundwater and surface water. So if you take a closer look, what you'll often find, and we've done this, many people have done this, is you'll find these persistent and mobile substances in the sources of our drinking water. So this is just a few examples. High profile, everybody knows about them. Melamine, trifluoroacetic acid, cyanuric acid, benzotriazole, and 1,4-dioxane. But you find them in your water. So the question is, should we clean up? Can we clean up? And how much does it cost? And actually, if you have to use expensive methods, so not standard methods, like activated carbon filtration and ozonolysis, then it costs about €1 per metre cubed to use reverse osmosis to clean up drinking water or to clean up water. Now I think we have 38 billion metres cubed of water, drinking water produced every year. So if we were to clean that up, that's 38 billion euros per year. So it's quite a lot of money, much more than ZeroPM is worth. And you know, we have to question, should we really do this? So hand to Hans-Peter now, and I'll be back in a second.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, and also say welcome to everyone. And I'm going to pick up where Sarah left off to just briefly highlight the regulatory response to all this growing awareness of persistent mobile substances in drinking water and the costs of remediating them. And the key document is this one, of course, which we'll hear more about very soon from the European Commission, from today. And that's the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, which was released in October 2020. And some of the things, and I won't go into detail because this will be covered very soon, where persistent mobile substances were mentioned was in relation to new hazard classes and criteria for the CLP regulation, chemicals labeling and packaging. And it was also related to the general actions on PFAS because the Venn diagram of PFAS substances overlaps a lot with the persistent mobile substances. And this is to develop a group approach to PFAS, and there's a broad PFAS restriction. All these things were foreshadowed. and also essential uses. This is something we're also talking about a lot today because we want to find alternatives to these persistent mobile substances. So we have to look at which ones are essential, which ones can we substitute. And very importantly is this toxic-free hierarchy. And when we saw this was actually when we were writing the proposal for ZeroPM, we saw this toxic-free hierarchy and it said, this is what we want to do this approach where we first look at how can we avoid use of hazardous chemicals. This is prevention of the theme of the workshop today. Minimizing control. This is about management, prioritization. And only as a last resort, we want to eliminate and remediate them from drinking water. So this is our approach. And before that, going even further back in time, rewinding it a little bit more before the Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, a key initiative for this was being developed by the German Environment Agency, the UVA. And this was some key reports that Sarah and I worked on with our colleagues Michael Neumann and Ivo Schieber, who are here today right in front of me. But this was outlaying the scientific background and the regulatory criteria for how the PMT, VPM hazard criteria should go forward. Other things that were happening was the SIN list. ChemSec added PMTs to the SIN list in 2019. So this is also increasing awareness that regulatory pressure is needed. And breaking news, last week there was a big PFAS update to the SIN list, which also included many persistent mobile substances. And of course, huge news was also recently, just before Christmas, December 19th, was the draft delegated amendment from the European Commission to the European Parliament to introduce these new hazard categories, PMT and very persistent mobile, and their definition. So a lot of breaking news, and we still got more breaking news happening right now. Just today, just this morning, the PFAS restriction proposal came out. So a lot of you have read that and looked at it already, and I saw a lot of discussions about it during lunch. So we're at a very exciting time. And also we're in Sweden right now, and it's important to know that Sweden is now the European presidency, and the Romina Pourmokhtari, she said that updating a breach will be a priority by the Swedish presidency of the EU Council. So this is all exciting new things that are on the table. So it's really at a pivotal moment to be talking about this. So with that, I'll hand it back to Sarah.
So I thought I will tell you a bit about ZeroPM. So some of you probably know the project and have been on the website. But basically, ZeroPM will interlink and synergize 3 different strategies: prevention, prioritization, and removal. And we have them set up in our nice triangle because we feel like we need to take a more holistic view to be able to solve the problem that we have at the moment. We're really excited that you all joined us because for us in ZeroPM, it's really important to have different stakeholders' opinions and different stakeholders', viewpoints, and hopefully they come together and we can use that to solve the problem. But what we wrote in the proposal, that was what we wrote, I'm not going to read it, but we would really like to, bring the chemical strategy, forward and drive things and make a difference with the project. So it's ambitious, but we can do it. That's what we're going for. This is just a schematic to show you a little bit more about the project. All of these icons represent things that we do within the project. We look at prevention, prioritization and removal, as I said, and today's workshop is focused on prevention. We'll have 2 more, so just PS, we'll have 2 more oh, there we go. Okay, you see, I said to Hans-Peter, I said, I'm not going to use this, and he told me, no, you have to use it. Okay, so I go maybe without it. If it's okay? Yeah. So today the prevention work packages that we're going to be talking about is, we've got 3 topics. The first is to do with alternatives assessment. The second is about policy, and the third is about market transition. And basically, we want to use all of these work packages and the knowledge within them to prevent regrettable substitution. That's our goal. We don't want that to happen. So what we're doing, let's have a look. For those of you who are not familiar with regrettable substitution, this happens when one substance is replaced with another that's just as hazardous. So it's a good example is PFOA, which was replaced by Genex. Genex is just as bad as PFOA. We didn't know that at the time. Companies didn't think that at the time. But now we see that it's in our water just as much as PFOA was, and it has and it has the same negative properties. So this is what we would like to try and avoid. And how could we do that? So there's many different ways, of course. But if we were to think about scientific tools, what could we develop further? Well, if we had methods for alternatives assessment, and we'll hear about these later today and also tomorrow, perhaps we could include something to do with mobility. If we thought about mobility at that point, would that make a difference? Most likely, yes. And we could also think about policy. Now, of course, Hans-Peter's just said it, stole the thunder, but yes, this is a really, really big step forward for these substances. Now it's passed, or nearly, and people, there will be a focus on these substances from now on. So, mission accomplished. The other thing that we can do is we can think in terms of the market. We want to expand green chemistry. There's many people who are maybe familiar with the 9 principles of green chemistry. That's what I did for my master's. But we need to go a bit further. The 12, Joel's telling me 12, yeah, the 12. Thank you. Jonas, you can cut that bit from the film, okay? the 12 principles. But we need to go a bit further. We need to take it even further. And we should really not use or emit these harmful substances. We should rather find an alternative and use that instead. And ChemSec is really a leader here. And we're lucky because they're a partner in ZeroPM too. We would like to be able to understand stakeholders better. We need to have transparent supply chains. This is something that consumers and I think everybody really would like to have. We should tailor information so that consumers can make smarter choices. If you're in a shop, do you know which lipstick you should buy? How can you tell? Do you have that information? Most likely not. I don't. I don't wear lipstick, but I don't have that information. We should also drive public opinion towards these safer substances that will really push everybody in all directions. And it's very important that we highlight the financial incentives. Okay, it might cost more for the consumer to buy something that doesn't have this substance in it, but are they willing to? And does the company benefit? Most likely, yes. And those are the things that we need to highlight. So we're all gathered here today to get married. No. We're not married. We're not together. We're not married. Many people think so. We're not.
No, but we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss zero pollution of persistence and mobile substances through alternative assessment, environmental psychology, sustainability assessment, policy action, the chemical strategy for sustainability, regulatory guidelines, market transition, innovation, green chemistry, and financial incentives. And in this room, we did not share the guest list, but in this room we have representatives of all these different sectors. We have policymakers and enforcers. We have chemical manufacturers here. We have chemical downstream users in this room. We have water utilities in this room. We have people developing technological solutions in this room. We have financial investors in this room. We have researchers and innovators in this room. We have environmental groups and NGOs, as well as the general public. And this is such a unique experience that we're not in a bubble here. We can actually interact and compare notes, because what I think is that, I'm not going to do a survey, but we all have a commonality that we have a goal that we want the preservation of freshwater ecosystems. I think this is a value all can agree on is worth supporting. And we all want high quality drinking water that is safe, cheap, and abundant. I think this is clear for all of us. We might disagree on how we're going to get there. What is the best way to ensure that we are safe and protected from these persistent and mobile substances? And all these different stakeholders and groups in this room today might have different opinions about that. And that's exactly what we're doing here. This is exactly what we're going to discuss. And so I'm very excited to open this workshop. And I just want to say thank you all for coming. Thank you for the ZeroPMers. Thanks to Sarah for this great organization. And I'm looking forward to the days ahead. And just to let you know, we do have a media team that is taking videos and recording interviews and taking photos. This is Tala, Jonas, Stig, and Leaf. They're in the back wearing the ZeroPM crew t-shirts, and I am so jealous. I want one. We'll try to get one later. And you're free to share this event on social media, any platform you choose. Just use the hashtag ZeroPM workshop.
ZeroPM. Zero pollution of persistent and mobile substances.
This project has received funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Programme under grant agreement number 101036756.